She's a consultant, researcher, mentor, and startup advisor, focused mainly on the intersection of information security and data science. Zoe is passionate about open source projects, communities, and collaborative ecosystems such as Owasp, Infosec Girls, XRSI, LispNYC, Semiotics, Web and Technology Transfer Days. Please welcome our guest speaker, Zoe Braiterman.
Hi. Okay, thank you for the intro, Shashi, and great to be here. So I'm excited to see my screen. Um, it's okay. Um, so one of the open source communities with which I'm involved is OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, which is comprised of a bunch of open source projects and an underlying community who goes and educates as volunteers to their own capacity as their schedules permit. And so I chair the Owasp Women in AppSec Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And diversity is very important to application security and really much of technology and security in general, just because different perspectives in design, different backgrounds coming from certain different types of developer backgrounds, for example, coming from a hacker perspective or coming from a communications perspective when it really comes to educating everybody. Strong writing. It could mean so many different things in terms of what diversity entails and how it's useful for our industry. So we get a lot of very interesting speakers, interesting feedback at our meetups, and also it's a good entry point for them to discover projects to get involved with, how to use their projects, especially on a budget, using an open source tool such as Zap Proxy, and talk about authentication. They have a fuzzer as well as other ways that you can test for authentication. They also have standards within OWASP, including the Application Security Verification Standard, the top 10, with which really anyone in AppSec has to be familiar. And authentication is number 7 currently. So when we get presentations on a variety of topics, sometimes diversity itself, in addition to certain AppSec or hacker side discussion. A lot of people who are in other areas of InfoSec, some CISOs are involved as well, some developers looking to learn security and maybe become a security champion within their organization, or just anyone interested to learn, because again, it's free. The projects are open source, and getting more diversity into that, because if you see the threat landscape and also the rise of emerging technology, then there's just so much need for it. Deval was speaking about cloud earlier, and that's just one example. It has its own set of implications as far as making security more manageable, more easier, but also, adding complexity in each of its own ways. So the human aspect confirmed is extremely important. And I'm going to share my screen briefly to show you. I'll probably just tweet it out afterward. Everyone should follow Rainbow Secure on Twitter anyway, because it's an amazing product and community. And so yeah, look for a tweet at OWASP and Rainbow Secure simultaneously, and you will find me. And I'm Z Braiterman on Twitter. if you want to find me to, reach out directly or DM or follow what I'm up to. I think that's probably the best way um, to see what's going on, because I tweet a lot about Owasp things. There are events, annual global and local events. Join your local meetup, learn a lot, teach a lot. You probably have more to teach than you think, because everyone has imposter syndrome. And yeah, keeping it brief, but I guess we're on to Jan.
Hi Zoe, thank you very much for your introduction. And I would say that yeah, many Infosec professionals, they get benefited by the security blogs and the best practices they release. So I think any woman who is entering the cybersecurity field, or any students who want to learn more about how to implement security in real world, I think they should go to the OS website. They should take opportunity of many projects going on over there. They can learn from those projects, and I think last I think I have a question here, Zoe. Can you shed any light on the ongoing project by OFs that can help in application security? Do you have anywhere? Do they have a list of ongoing projects where security architects can participate?
Yeah, if you go to owasp.org, then you should be able to search different projects. I think there's a project homepage actually, specific to all projects. The flagship projects are, the most developed of them all, so top 10 being among them. Yeah, projects is one of the, the options right at the top 10. Anyone new to AppSec, I would start as, top 10, because it's a general standard document, recently updated again, and broad enough categories. And now another interesting thing is that in the new version, insecure design is one of them. So I'm really glad to see that, because of my passion for threat modeling, and also just being um, cognizant of collaboration throughout the SDLC in the starting in the design, and also being very cognizant of the architecture from the start. And yeah, I mean, ask questions. It will, if you go to each project, then it should direct you to their GitHub pages, and then you can make pull requests if you do want to interact or submit. They also have Slack channels. It's usually suggested that you reach out by Slack too, so they know your background, they know what you want to do, in addition to just submitting an issue and then a pull request. But yeah, we really are always looking for community feedback. Each project leader is usually very enthusiastic to see how people are using it within their organizations, using it on your own, depending if you're an independent consultant like I am. And yeah, feedback is always good. There are a lot of projects developed. There's actually one that's a project integration standard that's led by a friend of mine, and it really shows you contextually where certain OS projects fit in within the SDLC, and how you can potentially do AppSec on a budget within your organization, especially if you're a startup, which is very interesting and relatable. Hooray for those brave enough to create their own startups, by the way. Shout out to Nihal and Deval. It's really incredible what they're doing. Talk about diversity, everything that Rainbow Secure is, and does. It just makes everything more intuitive for users, and more secure for any of the companies developing their products. So so feedback from innovators is always welcome, because how are we going to keep ahead of the attackers if we're not innovating? If we're just using the same practices over and over again, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I mean, have you read the news?
Correct. I think we have one question in the chat. Sasi is asking, what would you suggest to the students and professionals thinking to transition career to information security? Where should they start?
To start in information security, not just AppSec?
Yes, because people say many times they study different background, but now they want to, switch over to a change of track and they want to take up security. So information security in particular. So what should be your suggestion and advice to the, newcomers?
Well, for software developers, I'd say, create an app, make certain, check out one of our intentionally vulnerable apps. Juice Shop is an amazing one. It's Bjorn Kiminich, who is the project lead of that, is actually an excellent developer in addition to security professional. And sometimes it's kind of rare to have that combination that they're great at both. So it's very well developed. Fun. I mean, it's like you're buying juice, but then you learn as you go. There's a guide. So if you're a developer, going in there and also noting that the source code is there, and then you can also learn yourself, go through the trainings there. There are YouTube videos, and then potentially start training others as you learn how to find and fix various vulnerabilities within that. There are also other similar projects to that, and the security knowledge framework, which gives some good examples and insight. And if you're non-technical, maybe reading something in plain English rather than code. Or plain whatever language you speak, depending. I guess, legal or political science type backgrounds is probably best for governance and compliance. I think, business knowledge is valuable regardless, because you understand how an organization operates and where pitfalls might be communication wise. Understanding, incentives and how they're aligned with cybersecurity strategy, and understanding roles and responsibilities. So maybe reading over a few NIST documentations there. Again, depending, where you want to start. There are a lot of standards documentations there, and some people find them dry and seek, fun cartoons. There are platforms, and a lot of the platforms have promotional materials online, so kind of a teaser, if you will, on YouTube, such as Infosec Institute. Especially after the end of this month with the Rainbow Secure Symposium, just go through their YouTube channel and see all the awesome presentations from various types of security, learn there, and then you kind of know at least Nihal and Deval, and can reach out to the speakers based on there, and then you kind of know that they're human rather than somebody working for SANS or Infosec Institute. And okay. And I think a lot of the value of community, whether it be Owasp or OSP School, depending what area of security, is that you can ask people who have done it. Actually knowing them, actually meeting them is very helpful, because at the end of the day, just understanding what's expected, it doesn't map to the actual architectures if it's technical. B, in terms of, implementation, each professional and practitioner does things differently. So it's great to get mentorship about how to actually implement it. And the answer will really always be it depends. It's very, very specific, case by case. But at least getting some sense from an actual mentor is part of the reason to join one of these communities, because you can read all the documents, even go through the labs and not necessarily understand how it would apply to an organization, because there's just so much. And we're all constantly learning from one another. I know, again, I learn a lot from Nihal and Duval, and as well as some of the other speakers who I happen to know. The community is quite strong because of that. Okay. And yeah, I mean, I think just when in doubt, reach out. Some of the meetups, even if membership specifically is paid, some of the meetups, if you go on meetup.com and search Owasp or another similar organization, then at least the meetups will be free. At Owasp, really, membership has to do with voting rights and a lot of certain conference passes as well, which are very helpful in terms of continued learning. Very big name type speakers tend to speak at these conferences, so eliminating any barriers to access to those conferences is a great perk. So I'm not saying there's no value in an OS membership, because I know if you want to consistently be involved, it's very, very important. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really don't think there's a better way to find mentors and also start mentoring and just kind of keep in touch. And no matter what your job is at a given moment, then you'll have kind of the next thing, somebody to ask specific advice if you want to switch to another part of Infosec or another part of AppSec. And yeah, I say projects are a major distinction between OWASP and some of the other organizations that are just training related, because it's interactive. That's just how software and development and tech is in general. Yeah, I mean, when in doubt, reach out, ask questions, because it's one of those things that I think students in any industry need to learn when they're afraid in networking. Even outside of security and tech, is that there's really never a dumb question, and if it is a really, really, really bad question, then you won't ask it again because you'll receive feedback showing that it wasn't great. But yeah, there never one answer. Always keep learning. Everything's changing, and that's why we need more people and more diverse perspectives.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for sharing your, wisdom, your, expertise and your knowledge on the communities. We know that you have been doing great by having part of different communities, webs, breaking barriers, and so on. So, and including Women Cloud. So, I think
Yes,
our
so
will
she
have.
is so much active in different community like InfoSec. I don't even not remember the name of so many communities that she is involved with.
And the acronyms make it even harder. I mean, then they make it easier to say. um, they make it kind of harder to keep track and distinguish from one another. But OWASP saves a lot of syllables versus Open
Oh,
Web
okay.
Application Security Project. But yes, of
Thank you, Zoe, to take her time.
course. And thank you for hosting and for leading. Seriously, this is great all month. such opportunity you're creating for people. Definitely, again, definitely, one place to start if you're looking at, a way of learning via media, go to the Rainbow Secure YouTube channel afterward and
Yeah,
learn from
sure.
the response speakers.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna host all the recordings and videos from our esteemed guests and
Yeah.
founders. So that with some brief
I
summary. So,
think
yeah.
on a last day, I think we have all the videos available on our YouTube channel till Friday. Let's see how it goes.
I'm try to upload.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Zoe, for presenting.